Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Norma Juarez. I am a proud alumna and staff member in UNC's Alumni Relations Office. Thank you all for joining us today for the Entrepreneurship Alumni Career Panel. Today, you will gain insight from alumni who turn their ideas into realities to get their business off the ground. Before I introduce you to the panelists, I would like to share a couple of housekeeping items. This event will be recorded and will be available on demand in the next couple of days on the alumni website, and I will post the link in the chat. If you would like to reach out to our panelists after the event, I will also be posting their contact information in the chat, so make sure to check that out. And lastly, I will go off screen after introductions are done, and I will return toward the end of the event to provide a closing statement. Now, please help me welcome our panelists. And Robbie, we will start with you. Can you please introduce yourself by stating your name, title, your company, your UNC degree, and telling us what inspired you to start your business?
Sure. So hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Robbie Aguilar, and I own the two Berry Blends locations in Greeley with my wife, and we have a junior partner on the Bistro location. I also am currently a mortgage loan officer, so I have three major things going on in my life and my career. And I graduated in 2003 from the Montfort College of Business with my degree in business finance. And it's a long story for what inspired the business start. I graduated, went into corporate banking, kind of climbed the corporate ladder for a while until the middle management position I was in was starting to go away. And I had the opportunity for almost 2 years to know that it was going away. So in that 2 years, I knew I needed to do something else and wanted to do something else. And that's kind of how all this sparked up. So pass it on to our next one.
Lisa?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Hudson. I'm the director at the East Colorado Small Business Development Center. I graduated from the Montfort College of Business at UNC in 2010. Go Bears! And I got into the Small Business Development Center because I grew up in the home of an entrepreneur and love everything about it. You know, it's in my bones, if you want to say that. And I just love supporting our local communities start, grow, and develop their businesses.
Thank you, Lisa. Amy?
Hi, Amy Hudson from Aunt Helen's Coffee House. I'm the owner and the operator here. I graduated a lot earlier than all of you guys did, 1991. I received my degree from UNC in Human Rehabilitative Services with a minor in early childhood education. So most of my career, I did work in education, early childhood education, and kind of what inspired me to start Aunt Helen's was it was always a dream of mine to run my own business. I felt that way from way back when I was even at UNC. So my inspiration was I was tired of making other people money and decided to try it for myself. And I'm learning that that's really not how this works, but.
Thank you, Amy. Aaron?
Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Zimmela. I am the owner and founder of Zova Marketing, which is a digital advertising agency. I graduated from UNC in 2018 with a business degree with an emphasis in marketing. And then I also have a violin minor from the music school at UNC as well. And then the reason, so this is one of a few businesses that I have started. The marketing agency, which is what I'm talking about today, actually rose like a phoenix out of the ashes of a kind of a failed, crumbled business previously that I had started when I was in high school. So this is kind of the risen phoenix out of that. So there's like a whole story behind it, and you can contact me on LinkedIn if you want to hear the whole thing later.
Thank you, Aaron. Shannon?
Awesome. Thank you all for being here and hosting such a wonderful occasion. I'm Shannon Lynn Hageman, and I graduated in 2011 from the Montfort School of Business. I had an emphasis in marketing, and I'm owner and founder of Lynn's Lasting Impressions, which is Denver's premier business-to-business floral company. So we service like Ritz-Carlton's, a lot of the five-star hotels and restaurants around the Denver area, doing interior floral design, fresh weekly florals, as well as exterior plantscaping And then I don't know if you guys have ever been to Larimer Square downtown. I do the entire Larimer Square, making that bloom when the season comes in. Just bringing beauty to business is what it's about. I've always been passionate about business ever since I was little. I was an entrepreneur selling jewelry at the lunch table, and I always thought it was fascinating being able to provide a value to the environment, to the world, provide a value and need, and also get compensated for that. So it's been beautiful to me from the very beginning. And once I took the leap to start my own business after working for ExxonMobil for 5 years after I graduated, I never looked back, and it's been blooming since. So we're now in the Denver metro area, looking to expand into Austin, Texas, Seattle, as well as Scottsdale in Q1 of next year.
Thank you, Shannon. And now I will hand it over to Dr. Gibbs, who will be our moderator this afternoon. Dr. Gibbs?
Thank you very much, Norma. I'm happy to be here with you today. My name is Cher Gibbs. I am Dean of the Montfort College of Business. And a little bit about my background: I have a PhD in management with teaching and research emphasis in entrepreneurship. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. With my first business was inspired by a deep desire and longing to have my native Louisiana cuisine, Creole and Cajun cooking. And I started a catering and a specialty retail company when I lived in Minnesota, working at the Mayo Clinic. My background is in software engineering and computer science, and eventually I got into the business field. I'm so excited to be amongst my entrepreneurial peers and friends. It's a great day to be a bear in Northern Colorado. So I'm happy to share the panel with 5 fantastic entrepreneurs. So shall we get started? All right, here we go. So the first question, and this can go to everyone on the panel, whoever wants to respond. How have you incorporated your education at UNC into your profession? And how has this helped you be successful in developing and launching your business idea?
I'll go ahead and start. I think what I learned most at UNC was tenacity, how to not give up, how to do everything I could, the best I could, and just keep going. And so that was one of the things. Getting through school was hard and it wasn't easy, but it taught me that now that I can utilize those skills in my own business, I understand the importance of how hard it is to just keep going when you feel like everything's up against you.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
Yeah, so 20 years ago, almost, when I graduated, I remember being there like it was yesterday, but when you say 20 years ago, it seems like a lifetime ago. But I do remember kind of vividly going out. So I started going into essentially banking right after I graduated. And I remember in finance, we were doing all these longhand calculations of like time value money, net present value, all these things. And I remember very vividly that I applied that pretty quickly out into the mortgage banking world. And I was always kind of taken back, like, wow, I'm actually using this stuff. But I think what it did is it did kind of create a foundation that you can build off of and kind of manifest some confidence against not only your peers, but your competition out there that's doing the same thing you are. So I remember having that platform and using it almost immediately. And that kind of helped elevate me into some leadership management type stuff, which really helped find my passion. So it was very helpful.
I'll go next. I remember it was my last semester at UNC, and I took a class titled Small Business Counseling, which is still at UNC today. And this really springboarded my career. I remember working on a real project for a local chiropractor office, and I was able to take the concepts and the theories that I learned in the classroom previously and apply it to that project. And right after that, going through the project, I knew that that's something that I wanted to continue doing, was consulting with small businesses. And I still use those theories and concepts I learned today.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So for those of you listening, that means tenacity, and taking great classes in finance and small business and entrepreneurship is important in your journey. Let me ask the second question. After the idea phase, how did you define your competitors in the market, and what resources did you have or use to finance your startup business?
That's a really interesting question, actually. Every entrepreneur is a little bit different. I work a lot in the startup space. Our ad agency does, but all of my companies have been bootstrapped. So I've literally started them with $300 to get the licenses to operate. And then probably, pay an attorney to get an operating agreement or something like that. But some businesses need a little bit more funding, which is actually where I think Lisa at the SBDC can help out with that question quite a bit, because they help out with financing options and like trying to figure those things out. It really just depends. Some people do like friends and family raising money, which that's what a lot of the Colorado startups do. Some people go to banks, in which case you need a pretty hefty business plan, which Lisa also helps you create that. So there are quite a bit of things to get going, but it's all about a few things, what you're comfortable with. Some people are not comfortable with getting loans from a bank. It depends on what your goals are for the business. And some people are one-man shows and they don't necessarily need a whole lot. And then it also depends on the scope of work that you're going to be doing and planning that out and really realizing, okay, how much money am I going to need? I can say from personal experience, bootstrapping is not a very easy direction to go. You have to just essentially hustle until one day like things make sense. But it can be very rewarding that way. But you really, in order to know what you want, you need to actually sit down and think about that and probably think with somebody who knows more than you about that. Like, I know I keep mentioning Lisa, but like maybe for instance, Lisa at the SBDC, or other entrepreneurs, any of the entrepreneurs here, and Robbie as well, working in banking. I mean, finding a mentor who can really help you think through those questions is huge.
Yeah, very, very well said. I think as I look back at the first Berry Blends and the second Berry Blends, there are different financing strategies for both of them. The first one, it did require a lot of startup cash, and having the foresight to know for 2 years that your corporate position is going to go away kind of positions you to save and prepare for something. So that was a part of it. We had a couple of years of saving. We had a rental home that we ended up selling just to eliminate some risk there, but it also created some cash and savings for us. And then part of the severance package, so kind of all of that combined, but still at that point, knowing the amount of capital that was needed, I did initially take on a partner for the first one, where we came up with a 50-50 split of all the expenses, 50-50 partnership. And then throughout the year after opening, I was able to eventually buy him out. And then when we had the opportunity to open up the second one, I also looked at getting some investors as well too, but I felt a little bit more seasoned than I learned from the first time going through it with this 50-50 partnership to now being able to essentially sell shares and raise capital that way. So you evaluate your business based off of what you know and the equipment you need to buy and say, okay, we need to come up with $300,000. So for 10%, someone can come in and buy in 10% ownership for $30,000 or so. And you kind of get comfortable with, okay, this is how much ownership I'd like to have. This is how much ownership I'd like to give up. But nonetheless, I'd still like to have full managerial and operational control of the entity, even though we have investor relationships. So it kind of evolved towards this partnership to investors in the new one, which is my preferred strategy. If I needed to raise capital and open another one, it would be using that same investor type strategy, just because it gives you, you do need an element of control, do need an element to make sure things are running up to your standards, and to have that written into that investor contract is something that was a big plus for us.
And I kind of second what Aaron said about the SBDC. We also worked with them. I feel lucky to be in the Greeley area because it was such easy for us to access their resources that they offered. They helped us write our business plan, clear up until we closed on our loan that we did receive for our build out on the space. So it was a great tool for us, and we had no idea where to begin. So had we not had that opportunity, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Well, thanks so much for the kudos, you guys. That's so nice. I'd like to speak from the organization perspective or nonprofit. So the Small Business Development Center, every year I have to go out and fundraise my operational budget. And so part of that, I'm competing with other nonprofit organizations, other entrepreneurial programs. And I think a big part to do that is to develop rapport, one, obviously, with your stakeholders, but also to have some good data points to go off of your successes. And so that's what I really focus on, as well as developing grant writing skills. So if you are a nonprofit organization and you need assistance with that, that's something, a skill to really hone in on is your grant writing skills.
Shannon, did you want to provide a response to that question?
Absolutely. I love, I'm always fascinated. I love hearing how people get off the ground. And for me, I grew this thing organically, and I funded the whole thing myself all along from zero to where it's at now. And, I think resources are a great thing for us to use. And I haven't really tapped into those as much as I probably could have. But what I do know is that to get things going, you have to definitely have a lot of persistence. And I remember putting my first floral arrangement together with some flowers from King Supers and a vase from Goodwill. And I walked into one of the Hyatts, and, that was my first account, charging, them $800 a month. The arrangement cost me maybe like $40. And so just kind of figuring out your margins or profit margins on things early on was like, okay, great. Like, and now how many accounts do I need to have to sustain a place? And then literally getting on the phone, making cold calls to get more clients, engagement. Lisa said, just building that rapport that I think is essential. I think a lot of the business success came from sales and personability, meeting the customer's needs, exceeding those needs, and then word of mouth carried it throughout that. But I've been in business 5 years now, and so that's how it started from the get-go, is just piece by piece, and then knowing your numbers as far as the margins go, so you know what you have to get and what you need to operate.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shannon. And I think that the panelists' responses are very consistent with what we found in the entrepreneurship research, that a large number of entrepreneurs start their businesses more organically. They bootstrap or they get loans by working with the Small Business Development Center to help with loan packaging and business plan writing. So if you are interested, we would invite you to come and visit us at the East Colorado Small Business Development Center, which is housed in MCB. Got to get a little plug in there for you, Lisa.
Thank you.
So let's transition over to something that I think most of our seniors or graduating seniors may want to know a response to. And that is it possible to land a good job that has to do with your major right after graduating? And if so, what steps do students need to take now to ensure that happens?
I can share my thoughts on this. Absolutely. And, the first and most important piece of advice that I can give is to put yourself out there. You never know when you may meet your next boss. In fact, that's how I got into my career. I landed my first job because of the work that I did in the classroom. He ended up becoming my next boss. So I think putting your best foot forward, always presenting yourself in a professional manner, and really just getting involved and engaged in your community is a great way to make connections to get you that job that you want to go into as a career.
Robbie and Amy.
Sure. I would agree with what Lisa said about being involved in your community and making connections, because that is a lot of it. When I first got out of school, just knowing people in the community and just definitely putting myself out there all the time was very helpful in order to get my first job. I was, I just moved to Denver, and trying to get involved in things there was a little bit more difficult, but that's exactly what I had to do.
Yeah, agreed. You did the hiring for the better part of 10 years in my last role, and it was always the candidate that if you didn't know them from a referral, because that was where you started first, was reach it out and say, we need to hire. Does anybody know anyone that might be interested? That was always the first place. And then the second place were the applications you received, but the candidate who just walked in and shook your hand and introduced themselves always had a leg up on anybody else. So I do think it's possible to land a good job in your major. I've seen it, I've lived it, but like everybody said, it's getting out there, networking, and shaking some heads.
Thank you,
Love that.
panelists. And
For
I'll
me,
go ahead, Shannon.
Thank you. For me, as far as getting out, and I made a mistake. When I graduated, I thought I wanted to do this, but I actually wanted to do something else. So what I would encourage students to do is find what excites them. I was sitting behind a desk plugging in numbers. That's completely contrary to my personality, which is an expressive creative, right? So knowing a little bit ahead of time what actually drives you, gets you excited, and then tapping into those fields you'll carry a natural enthusiasm, a natural attitude of gratitude, and that'll show, your passion will show with what you're doing. So I wish I would have, hindsight, everything happens for us, not to us, right? So everything happened exactly the way that it was supposed to. But I think I would have felt a little bit more fulfilled and energized had I noticed, hey, I love flowers, I love entrepreneurship, and going straight into it right out of college. But it takes a lot of courage. And sometimes even, if you're within a company and you want to be an entrepreneurship, or you're an entrepreneurship, if you're an entrepreneur within a company, just knowing that role within the company that's going to energize you will help you gear towards the people that will help you get to that place.
Awesome. Thank you guys for those responses. And I'll just reiterate to students the importance of, and there's a direct correlation between internships and finding a job opportunity when you graduate. So pay a visit to the Career Services Center, and our professional experience coordinator here at MCB can help you to find those internships. So I'll direct this next question to Shannon, Robbie, and Amy. What challenges have you overcome as a business owner?
I'll answer this one. So that's a great question, and the biggest challenges that I had to overcome was just self-doubt and limiting beliefs. When you get out there into the business world as an owner and wanting to start something that's going to be successful, it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of rejection. It takes a lot of perseverance. Nobody, as an entrepreneur starting a company, nobody's your boss. Nobody's telling you to get up and go out there. Nobody's telling you how to, do R&D to see how you can better improve the quality of your product and service. Nobody's really telling you when or how to do anything. You have to figure it out. So that was the biggest challenge early on, is just pushing through those initial hurdles that were defeating, but just getting up the next day, knowing that you'll figure it out regardless of the struggle, regardless of the rejection, whatever it is, just to keep pushing through. That was the biggest challenge early on. Right now, scaling, I would say is a challenge, just because as I hire on more employees, just finding the right fit. My company culture is energy, life, and love with the flowers. So it's not just the flowers, it's the energy that comes with the customer service. So finding the right people for your team has been a challenge currently. And so, I've been hiring fast, hiring quicker. And what I've learned with that is it's great because you're able to see what you actually need. And then the people that are on your team, are there for the right reasons. And it's a great fit, but it takes a lot of patience.
Thank you. Good answers. I definitely agree with that. And there's so many challenges out there. It's, but if I had to pick one of the biggest ones that I think we've had success with is, so I'm relatively new into this industry. Most of my career has been corporate, and we just June was our 1-year anniversary with the drive-through, and then the second location opened in July. So we moved quick and moved fast, but I have a vast amount of experience working in banking with business professionals. And I think one of the challenges I first had when I came over is it's very clear, I'm sure everybody will agree, that as the business owner, no one's going to care as much as you do. You're going to be the one that loses sleep on this, and this is your baby. And that was definitely a challenge at first. And so I've had to figure out, okay, how do I kind of create that in what we're doing? And the first 6 months were a challenge, but the second 6 months, when we finally had strong leadership in there, it feels really good to say that we have managers, and they have a general manager that cares as much as I do, and the first 6 months, I wouldn't have thought that was possible. And, you're still going to be the one that everything falls on. It's going to fall on your shoulders. But I think one of the biggest challenges that I've overcome and that has helped so much was to be able to create that leadership team that cares about this business. And I'm still kind of in awe and shock sometimes at the level that they do care and the discretionary effort that they do give. But overcoming that has been something that's been huge for us. And I think, the way we did it, everything we say is we and us. So if we have a bad sales day, we had a bad sales day. If we're having a great day, we're having a great day today, guys. We just landed this awesome sale and this awesome event. Everything is truly about us and we here, and I think that's been huge. But it's also been big to be able to offer some ownership to the second location. So we've got the manager has some skin in the game, and that's also their baby. And our general manager now, it's a big deal for her to be with us from day one, to have been able to move up to manager, and actually shift lead to manager to now general manager, to have that growth in our organization has helped create that level of care from within. So that's been one of the biggest challenges that we had at first, that now we're able to kind of enjoy the reaps of all of our hard work through that.
So prior to the pandemic, obviously my answer was very different as to the challenges that we overcame. But one of the things that I learned through the pandemic was, and the labor shortage that we're all facing right now, is the importance of finding resources and finding money quickly. Who do you go to? Who do you count on? Who's got your back? That kind of stuff. In addition to creating a culture and environment that is attractive to young individuals. Most of our employees are college students from UNC and Ames. And so with the labor shortages that we're facing every day, it's very important for businesses to create a culture that is fun, that people want to come to work, that enjoy what they do. Otherwise, they have other options now that didn't used to exist. So I would say that is probably the biggest challenge that we are facing, along with many other restaurants. And Robbie, I'm sure your general manager sees it too, with all of the difficulty in hiring people or even having them show up once they're hired. It's been a huge challenge, but it's getting better. On the bright side, things are really looking up, and I think that everybody's starting to feel a little bit of relief, and I just hope that continues.
And I like to give my response to that question as an entrepreneur. I think my biggest challenge was before I got my MBA, not knowing the importance of doing market research ahead of time to know what the market need and the market demand is, and dealing with personnel issues. All of my siblings work for me, and I had to fire every last one of them. So that was quite a challenge.
I bet that made for a great Thanksgiving.
All of them knew they deserved it, so they didn't care.
If we have a relative, I said, I'll love you, but if I have to fire you, I will. Let's just start with that.
Absolutely. I'll direct this next question to Shannon, Aaron, and Lisa. And I think students especially may be interested in your responses. First, how do you market your ideas? Second, how do you monetize through social media such as YouTube, Instagram, TikTok? So show me the money.
All right. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. So I'm old school in the way that I'm not really on TikTok. I don't even have I think I have a basic Facebook page for my company. I literally did everything from scratch as far as marketing, getting in front of owners, getting in front of directors of operations of the companies which I desire to work with. So, getting, and as far as marketing it, I think that, showing up in a professional manner is a great, we are our biggest marketing tool. So making sure that I was showing up engaged. I had done the research on the company. I knew the branding. I knew the marketing. I knew their vision and mission. I knew what they were about before going into them with a floral proposal on how I think we could bring life to their business. So as far as marketing, I really did a lot of, organic showing up and presenting pictures of past work and what I think would look good in their business. I want to definitely get more on Instagram and Facebook. I know that that's a huge tool. I just need to get on that wagon because it's so hard. It's hard, you know, it's hard, but I need to learn about it. Even though, you know, I'm 32, I'm like, man, I'm I'm not even on TikTok. I just love doing the organic thing, but that's what's worked. And so hiring somebody that is an expert at that probably is a good move. But as of now, I actually haven't utilized any social media for my floral company. And it's
And
worked.
your millennial counterparts are going to troll you because of that. I'll let someone else.
Well, so I'm, you know, I own a digital advertising agency. So this is like what we do. A few of our clients include like ABC Studios, HBO Max. So we work with some pretty big clients. And we do a lot in the entertainment industry. And so it's all about, really online, it's about attention and then holding that attention. So for example, we work with some talent as well. So Emily Van Camp is somebody that she was in the Marvels, you know, she's Agent Sharon Carter. We work with her and her husband on a number of things. And we will coach them on how to make social media posts for different events that they're a part of. We do a little bit of ghostwriting for some talent for their social media posts. And for example, she has a little, you know, a few million followers. One post, there was an event we were doing, and one Instagram story that she posted resulted in 21,000 ticket sales to an event. So really it is about finding the people who have influence or gaining an influence. And if you want to gain an influence, we do coach some other people who are kind of mid-level, what we call mid-level influencers, or maybe even micro influencers. You've got to, first of all, be authentic. So all of you probably maybe have taken Denny McCorkle's class on social media or not. And I'm just going to be straightforward. Everybody complains about it, but he's actually got it down that you have to remain consistent and authentic and transparent. And it's kind of a pain in the butt to do things constantly, but he's right. So that's one thing that we see when people are like, how do I get to that point? You've got to create content that interests you, and you've got to do that market research. You know, Dean Gibbs said, do that market research, figure out what people want to see. And if you have something that you can contribute, do it in an authentic way, and you can actually really start to build a good following. We also run digital ads for Google and TikTok and Hulu and on Instagram and Facebook. So that is, you have to pay for that kind of attention. But if you craft the message in a way, if it's a video or an image, then you can actually gain a lot of attention. You know, just in general, like a month, 1 month of an ad, so 30 days of a good digital ad with all the assets in place. The best we've ever done is about $131,000 in revenue on a $5,000 ad spend. So, you know, that's a really big return, but you've got to do the research on what do people want to see? What do they care about? And come across in a way that's authentic, because they'll eat you alive. If they think you're lying, oof, you just get torn apart online. It's like sharks in the water. It's pretty crazy. So there's a lot of ways that you can do this stuff, and it gets pretty complicated, but just be yourself and be consistent.
And I would have to agree 1,000% with Aaron. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, content is king when you're looking at, you know, online or social channels to promote your business. It's all about creating content, not necessarily selling. You're not trying to sell. You're trying to create engagement, trying to create community, trying to get them to like you is what you want them to do. And so, you know, you have to create posts that aren't saying, oh, we're having 30% off. You need to get them to really engage with your business. So that is the best way to do it. We mostly utilize our social channels to promote our events and training programs. That's like what we would consider monetizing those. But we're really trying to just support and lift up our entrepreneurs on there. And yeah, I agree. I think, you know, you can definitely DIY your presence to get go, but if you can hire a professional like Aaron, you know, it's a great way to promote your business. But consistency and content.
Excellent answers. Thank you for that. So I'll direct this next question to either Aaron, Lisa, or Robbie and Amy. How have you applied your culture, background, or the identities you hold into your organization to create a diverse environment?
I'll kick it off. The Small Business Development Center, when I came into this program, it was definitely the older population was part of it. And, I came in as one of the younger people at the network in Colorado. And in fact, in my office, I was the youngest. And then when I became director, I was the youngest there too. And so I think bringing, a more modern takes on how to run things has definitely diversified our organization, and it's brought some efficiencies through technology. And I think that's always a good thing. If you can diversify your company, you're going to see benefits from it. If you have everyone that's all the same, you're going to have the same ideas. So having all kinds of different people, different ages, everything, it's only going to bring different ideas, and it's going to innovate your workplace. So that's what I would encourage you to do.
Yeah. So when we first started out with our drive-through location, I knew that there were several major high schools around it, and the high school Collegiate is going to be a big chunk of our customer base. And so I wanted a staff that reflected what our customer base was going to be. It makes it easier for them. They're more comfortable when they come in. And so one of the first things I did was reach out to all of the Facebook friends I had who I knew had kids in high school. We had a goal of hiring somebody from each of the high schools in town, as well as Ames and UNC. And so that was kind of the main focus that we had. And then when we opened this other location, with it being right by the university, we had a goal of hiring college students that were involved in different areas. So we've got softball, track, theater, business, communication, and we're just constantly looking for different groups out there. We've got some from sororities out there, and that's part of our interview questions. What groups are you involved in? What clubs are you involved in? What are you involved in on campus? And so we try to keep it diverse in that aspect, so that when students come in, it's a reflection of what they are. And it's a majority of what our staff is high school college. So.
I've always believed that, and I always tell everybody that are employed by me that I don't have the answers. I don't know the answers. So we try very hard to hire people from many different backgrounds as well as different skill levels. I don't just hire trained baristas or kitchen staff. It's people who have had hardly any work experience, clear up to some who've had 5-6 years. But we create, because of the different skill levels of people, we're able to form a team where we can say, what do you think is the best way to handle this, or what ideas do you have that you can incorporate? And it's always, I don't have the answers, and we do it as a team and come up with new ideas, new products, and solve problems together based on everybody's different levels.
Nice. Wait, was I supposed to answer this question too, Dr. Gibbs? Okay, perfect. So I think that a few things, I'm in an interesting position diversity wise, because my mom's side of the family is all from Mexico. My dad's side is all from like the Czech Republic and Germany. So I've got kind of a very deep mix there, and have some Native American, but then also I was involved in lots of things. I was a music student at UNC. I ran track and cross country. I'm still very involved in music. I was involved in business. Yeah, woo, yep. And then I also, I was in Boy Scouts and I'm an Eagle Scout. So I have like lots of different organizations that I'm a part of and different identities that I have, and I try and bring that in. And I think the biggest thing, at least that I've learned for leaders, is if you really want inclusivity and diversity and good ideas to come from minorities or areas that you're not looking at, you just got to shut up and listen. Like you just have to shut your mouth and listen to what your team has to say without, and this is the trick, without dropping your little, opinions here and there, because the way that you react really does affect what they say. And so you have to really rein that in on yourself as a leader, as an entrepreneur, to not inject your biases into open communication. It just, if you're constantly doing that, then you won't get anywhere. No matter how diverse your team is, if they feel like they can't speak up and be diverse, then it's all for nothing.
Thanks, Aaron. And I would just add that there's very, very strong evidence that diversity leads to extremely high performance and productivity levels in organization, irrespective to age, race, gender identity, orientation, ability or disability. It's important to diversify your workforce if you really want to maximize creativity and innovation. So this next question is for everyone who wants to answer, and it's near and dear to my heart. So knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your collegiate years, what would you have done to better prepare yourself to become an entrepreneur? In other words, what would you say to your younger self?
So I saw this question asked on Instagram to other business owners, and it's been a while now, but the answer of the business owners has stuck with me, and it was, he said, my advice to the younger generation, in this case myself, would be to go work for someone long enough so you can learn the trade and build the skills till you can eventually go and open something for yourself. And I like that. I guess my advice to myself would have been, I wish I opened this business 10 years ago. And I've taken what I had built, the skills I learned and developed in leadership and running teams, and I just kind of ran with that for almost 20 years. And this business has brought so much fulfillment and excitement and joy that I wish I'd done it a long time ago. And so I guess my advice would have been, once you build those skills and that talent and ability, that don't be afraid to branch out, because my goal has been to create 3 separate sources of revenue. And I have it now, and now I've got new goals. But that goal I reached, I would have been able to accomplish a decade ago had I given this advice to my younger self.
This is actually one of the few questions that I prepared for, in all honesty, to everyone. And I thought about this a lot. And everybody kind of says similar things, I think. But one thing that this is like, I think, pretty direct, that I wish I would have told myself, there's actually 2 things. Number 1, learn Spanish. I should have done it. I should have actually paid more attention in my language classes. And then number 2 is actually to take notes and journal. Entrepreneurship is like a big experiment. And over time, I realized I was actually making mistakes kind of recurring. And I'd do something, and then one of my employees or somebody else would say, hey, didn't you already try that? And because you're so in the business, you forget sometimes about things you might have done. So, and I still struggle with this now, but taking notes and really looking back on them and seeing like what made me happy, what worked, what didn't, that is a skill that a lot of very successful entrepreneurs have employed. And I'm still working on that, but taking notes is actually very important.
I think one thing I would go back to tell myself, be more involved in clubs or organizations during your collegiate years. I think that there's a lot of value in these organizations, not only for experience and, project work or things for your resume, but really the connections as well. So I would really recommend, if you're not involved in clubs or organizations right now, to do that and get involved.
So I guess I would just kind of second what everybody said. Be brave, go for it. I, like Robbie, I wish I would have done this many years ago, but I was always hesitant. It was always, my kids have to go to college. I've got to save for this. I've got to save for that. And I wish I would have done it a lot earlier. I probably would have had more energy 20 years ago, but, don't wait for tomorrow, because it just, if you've got a dream and you think you can do it, go for it.
I love that. These are all great answers. And for me, I wish I would have probably seeked mentorship or community a little bit longer. Like I've been a lone wolf throughout this. I haven't had a business mentor, investor. Like I feel like everything's been just all on my own. And had I like reached out for help or been part of more organizations, that might have made it a little easier. At the end of the day, it does come down to you and you showing up for your business regardless. But there are resources out there, and utilizing those. I think I wish I would have utilized those a little bit more. In addition, I just went into corporate America because that's what, I was not really taught, but that's kind of what the norm is after college. And had I had the balls to actually just go for my entrepreneurship passion, I would have been able to get this thing started a lot earlier and been a lot more fulfilled in my work. But, you have to kind of take a step off the beaten path if that's what you want to do. So kind of what everybody else is saying too, you got to just go for it. And I wish I would have gone for it a little sooner. The second I went for it, it was great. But just like taking that initial leap could have been taken a little bit sooner probably.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. So we've covered a lot of ground over the past hour, and I wanted to ask one final question of the panelists, and that is, can you provide a final word of advice for UNC Bears looking to become an entrepreneur?
You can do it.
I've got this. I would say planning is key when you're looking to launch your small business, and a part of that preparation is educating yourself. But I think the biggest piece to entrepreneurship is bravery. And I'm going to end my segment with a quote that I just love, and I think is so true for entrepreneurs. And it's by Peter Drucker. And he said, "Whenever you see a successful business, someone once made a courageous decision."
I would say that, hopefully they have tried enough things to found their passion. You think of when you're a young kid and no one ever says, I want to be a banker when I grow up, or I want to be the dean of a college of business, or I want to be a banker or even a business owner. I think when they're young, they say, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer, or like my daughter used to say, a princess, and they don't quite have this, like, I want to go out and I want to be a owner of a couple smoothie shops. And so my advice would be to try multiple things in multiple avenues until you can come across your passion, because that's what most people do when they end up doing what they're doing. If they do love it, is they say, I just kind of stumbled across what I was passionate about and went that direction. So I would say it's extremely important. Obviously, take risks for sure. You have to, but you have to make sure that you're passionate about it, or the risk that you're taking isn't going to be worth it. So try multiple things and ensure that this is really something that you are going to be passionate about, because it's not a 9 to 5. It is a 24/7 type deal. You do work more, you do put more time and energy into it. But my passion was found in the corporate world, but my passion and time and energy was going into that. Now it's going into myself because I found what I enjoy doing. So that would be my advice.
Mine would be, don't give up. Just keep trying. If you have issues or you come across a roadblock, work it out and get over it. Just don't give up. If it's truly what you want to do, you can make it work, and don't sweat the little stuff and make it happen.
I'm just going to steal Gary V's, what he says. If any of you don't follow Gary V, you should. He has a lot of great advice. He's basically this panel. And he says, just get comfortable with failure and don't be afraid of it then. And just go after it.
I love that. These are all so great. And I would say, hold on to your visions. I remember before I started the business, I would close my eyes. I'd visualize what I wanted it to see, where I wanted it to be in a year, and locking in that visual of what you want, like picturing your dream, closing your eyes, putting a little passion behind the vision really brings it to life, because everything that I visualized has come forth. And what I would say is the biggest investment is yourself. So, investing in your health, investing in, the skills that are going to get you to the next level. I think I think is actually like essential. Starting early on, just invest in yourself. Put all your resources while you can on yourself, so you are the vehicle that's going to get this started, and you can do it. And so believe in yourself. You can do this, and you can.
And I would say take the leap and launch. That's all you have to do. And as we transition into the Q&A to respond to questions from the audience, I want to just make a general announcement about our MCB Entrepreneurial Challenge. It's a business pitch competition for students to pitch their innovative ideas, learn from expert judges, and build their business skills. It's for any student from any college who has a business idea or wants to be involved more with entrepreneurship. For more information about the Entrepreneurial Challenge, you can go to mcb.unco.edu/e-challenge, and I'll ask Norma to post that in the chat for the participants to take a look at. That's mcb.unco.edu/e-challenge. So let's move on to our first question from the audience, and a couple of panelists can take this question. What advice would you give to a soon-to-be graduate unsure of their next steps? Either continue with schooling, take a gap year, or work, etc.
Yeah, I think I kind of just said that you've got to try multiple things. Yeah, I think my first job right outside of college, I didn't thoroughly enjoy. It was still in corporate banking. But I remember sticking it out for a year and a half, probably about 6 months too long. But the experience that you got there was invaluable. So from there, I had to recognize this wasn't what I want to do long term, but I did get a good amount of experience. So there is that element of you got to work hard, you got to grind it out. When you're in your career, there is that you got to put your head down and work hard a little bit, but you also do have to try out many things as well too. I always kind of had that natural gravitation towards numbers and finance, and so I was in the field and it was holding me in. There were other aspects of that particular job I didn't enjoy, but it helped me get the next spot and kind of move on as well too. So yeah, get out there, work hard, and try a bunch of things if you're not sure what you want to do.
Thanks. Anyone else want to respond to that?
I guess just don't stop learning. Do not. Especially if you're going into technology or marketing, 6 months of not keeping up with things is years almost. So really just keep learning, keep reading, keep going after what you want to know.
Thank you, Aaron. So this next question is for Robbie. And the question is, what does your average day look like, and what do you dislike about your job?
My average day, goodness, my wife asked me, what are you doing today? And I say the same thing I do every day, try to take over the world. I'm so busy, literally burning the candle at the both of it at the end of the stick, but I love it. So I would say my average day, I typically start out at one of the Berry Blends locations, if not both, just kind of oversight. I do have a general manager who, when I hired her on, the instruction and kind of description of the job is the better you get at your job, the less there's going to be for me to do. And that's what your position is for. So I do have somebody hired to do that, but I do generally like to start there. And then for the big chunk of the day, I'll do mortgage. I'll go in there. It provides a lot of flexibility. It allows me to use the decade of experience I had overseeing banks. So I oversaw 10 banks with a team of upwards of 160, 170 for almost a decade. And so when I knew that was coming to an end, I figured, okay, well, I can probably oversee a couple smoothie shops and do my own job as well too. So I feel like I've set myself up to over the years to learn what I enjoy. I know what I enjoy. I know I enjoy leadership, developing other people, but I also have that ability to self-produce myself. So every single day I have the ability to work with my leaders who oversee the 2 Berry Blends locations, and I have the ability to self-produce myself through networking, building relationships with realtors, and working with the relationship with the bank that I'm at as well too. So a typical day is I have a one-on-one call with my general manager, potentially some calls with the managers. I try not to overstep the GM as much. And I'm working in mortgage. Come home. Today I've got to go back to the Berry Blends, actually. We've got somebody who has some personal stuff going on. So I apologize if you're a customer tonight, because I always slow them down. They're so fast at what they do. So I'll end up there, and I'll have my 10-year-old daughter with me who hates it, and she's drugged there with me, but I'm hoping one day she'll be taking it over. But that's a typical day, kind of running all over the place.
Great, thank you, Robbie. We have just a couple of minutes left, so I'll ask this last question, and any of you can answer, and if you don't, put your thumbs up to let students know. Are you hiring in any internship roles or part-time work at your business? Lisa is. Amy, what roles?
I have 2 positions currently open. One is for a business consultant. It's a full-time position in Weld County. And the second is for a fiscal manager position.
And I'm always hiring. So I've, barista positions, cook positions, between our 2 locations, we're typically almost always hiring. Great for a gap year.
All right, I'm gonna turn it back over to Norma, and I would end by saying, keep entrepreneuring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our panelists and to all of you who joined us this afternoon. It is always an honor and pleasure to host fellow Bears and hear about their UNC experience and their career paths. I've learned so much. Thank you so much for being here. And the Alumni Office is hosting other career panels throughout the semester, so feel free to check that out and register for them. Our next upcoming event is October 7th and is Diverse Identities at Work at 4 p.m. via Zoom, so register for it. And you can find the registration at unco.edu/alumni/careers. Again, thank you all for being here. Have a great evening and go Bears.
Go Bears.
Thanks.